Recording. Okay, hello everybody, welcome to the re-recording of the Opus Magnum Week 13 stream. I actually remembered the week this time. Yeah, this is a puzzle by Brother Mojo. It is our only production puzzle, and it consists of taking the stabilized earth and reactive tin and turning it into artificial ore, which is this product over here. You have a limited space because of production puzzles, and you have to try to finish the puzzle within this space. It can pose a challenge for many beginners to the puzzle, especially if you're not familiar with area optimizing. Yeah, the two metrics for this
Yes.
puzzle, yeah, Jesso can say,
Can confirm.
But yeah, the two metrics for this puzzle were cost with secondary instructions and wait, was it instruction? I think it was, yeah, cost instructions, and then cycles and
it was instructions.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it was instructions.
Yeah, instruction. And the other metric is vintage instructions, which we will get into later because that's an interesting metric. But yeah, first off, we'll be starting with not a Steven solve because that's in showcase, but we'll be starting with Jesso's solve. It's a relatively simple solve. That's just I solved this puzzle. What do you want me to do? Solve.
Yes.
Oh God, I hate everything. Yeah, this is.
Sorry, I was just going to say, just solving this puzzle is honestly an accomplishment. Because production puzzles can be hard and very unintuitive for people. Because, like, especially if you're used to cycle optimizing or something like this will be really hard.
So yeah, Biggie hates production puzzles.
Yeah, and I honestly, until very recently, haven't tried optimizing for anything really. Yeah. So, I was just glad to finish.
If you liked solving this production puzzle, you can look into area optimization.
Liked is an interesting word to use.
I do like area optimization though. It's kind of fun. It's more area optimization feels more like doing a puzzle, like a traditional puzzle.
Yeah.
Unlike cycles, which is a lot of planning instead, and actually building something. Yeah.
You're kind of Tetrising everything together.
Area optimization. Yeah.
Production puzzle solving gives me this like stinging sensation when the layout doesn't quite work. And it's weird how I've grown to enjoy that over my time playing production puzzles.
But yeah, anybody who has solved this puzzle is already doing better than I am because I did not spend the time to solve this puzzle.
My stubbornness got engaged.
But yeah, I guess we'll be moving on then. Next up would be, this is 13th place by Jesso at 145 gold, so not exactly the cheapest solution, but it is a solve. Yeah, next up.
It is a solve.
Yes, it is a solve. Next up we have, I believe that's that's Shadow Cluster solve. It's a vintage instruction solve. We have Brother Mojo with a 90 cost solve, which is just a playtest solve that he has submitted. It's a really simple solve, just using a piston arm to do this. It's mostly just a proof of concept.
Is this the only other cost solve we have that uses a piston, actually?
Yeah, I believe so, because... Right, it is possible to get 80 gold, which is where the majority of people fall with a piston, but, like, why bother?
Yeah, doing it with a piston. 80 gold would be no calcifier, which means you have to like handle this gradually growing pile of waste earth because of the slightly awkward ratio of the puzzle.
Yeah, because it's it's 2 salt and 1 earth per output, but the input comes in pairs of 1 earth and 1 salt, and without a calcifier you can't convert the extra earth into salt to use. So you end up with 6 waste earth just lying around everywhere, And since this is a re-recording, everybody already knows that there are 70 gold solves which don't use the calcifier or a piston arm. But yeah, we'll be looking at those later. In the meantime, though, we have solves within the ballpark about 80 or so gold. That's usually just arm on track with calcifier. Yeah, this is Brother Mojo in the non-scoring. Next up we have with 85 gold, Genius 42 in 10th place. This is a 3-track solve, which gives you more access points, so it does make it easier to solve. Though having 3-track isn't the only way to increase access points.
I actually had a solve that I never bothered submitting that was a 3-track, but just a triangle track. So I know that works as well.
Yeah, triangle track is interesting.
I wanted to submit an 80s, and I think I had a working layout, but I got distracted with some optimization for a different puzzle and never got around to programming it.
Yeah. What was it? Electron separation?
Yeah.
Yeah, electron. You guys started working on electron separation some.
Yeah. That was the day we all tried to break the record. It was the day before the stream. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, let's just do this now.
Yeah, I'm a bit easily distracted like that.
Yeah, most of us probably are.
Yeah. Ooh, shiny.
So yeah, this is a 3-track solve, and the benefit of it is you get full access to everything. Well, apart from inputs, but that doesn't really matter. Inputs and output.
Also, most people usually make the Y shape and then bond the tin at the end. So it's all interesting. The Genius 42 decides to bond the I think it's one of the salt atoms at the end instead.
Oh, yeah.
Opting not to make that Y shape.
Makes kind of a lightning bolt shape first.
Yeah, like a long lightning bolt.
Yeah. Next up then we have in 9th place at 80 gold, which is where most of the people fall, Goodbye Galaxy. This one with 268 instructions. As with 2-track, the access points are more limited and projection points outwards. So the projection is half access, that means you have less access to it, but projection is the easiest glyph to have access because the other half doesn't require you to drop anything on it. It can just be held over there. And with most of the cost solves, they fall into 2 categories, especially with an 80 gold. Oh, Zorflax, your voice is a bit choppy. Oh, yeah, but... Rip Zorflax.
Oh, no, you...
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, now...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you're back.
Oh, that's weird.
But yeah, so most of the cost solves, especially at 80 gold, fall into 2 categories. There's the 1T category and, well, not category, but they usually fall within 1T or 2T, and they are spread around at 200 instructions and 100 instructions. And 1T and 2, the T is, represents how many products you make per track loop, and since this puzzle has stabilized Earth as your reagent, but there's only 3 salt type atoms in the output, you have to use 1.5 of the input each time, which means you either have to do 2 products per loop, or you have to do a bit of conditional work to reduce the amount of instructions, since doing 2 products per loop requires programming out the entire next instruction tape. And sometimes there's only a minor difference, so might as well make it conditional. Yeah. Next up, though, we have Ebanov at the same amount of gold and 258 instructions in 8th place. Oh yeah, another interesting thing about these solves is that you can use a too long arm and it gives you a lot more access points. Yeah. And in
It's
the...
definitely more versatile than, say, a piston.
Hmm?
It's definitely more versatile than, say, a piston in this scenario.
Yeah, in this scenario, it is more versatile than the piston, but a piston can be very versatile as well, especially when you're working on an area solve, since they don't require a track to move around on, and they can vary the length of the arm.
Oh yeah, no, Jeff. In different scenarios, pistons are better, but yeah.
Yeah, but in this specific chamber size, this is a very strong
Yeah.
arm layout.
Yeah, the too long arm and the 2 track is like perfect
Mm-hmm.
for
And
this
It's
shape.
almost like it was deliberately designed for that.
it
It's
has
just very good puzzle design.
yeah, there is, with just a 1-length arm, you have about 8 access points, and if you use the 2-length arm to the fullest, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12. You get 12 access points, which can't actually be shown clearly like this. 6 access points here, 6 access points here.
I was tempted to make a showcase solve with that exact type of length to wheel arm that ended up being a huge pain in the ass, so
Yeah,
I didn't bother.
I don't expect that to be easy, and I don't even know if it's possible, to be honest. But yeah. Double length arms are very versatile for this puzzle. It gives you 4 more access points, and since last week we were discussing if it was possible to make a wasteful solve with a double length arm, and we'll see if anybody achieved that after the... we didn't see any solves that actually did that last week, but we'll see if anybody managed to achieve it afterwards. Because I have some solves that came in after the end of the stream yesterday. Yeah, next up we have at 80 gold and 336 instructions, Bambi in 7th place. Sheepskate, filling the whole board with equilibrium as well. Yeah, this is very similar to Goodbye Galaxy solve, except the product and the projection glyph is flipped, and it's also upside down. This is basically Goodbye Galaxy solve, but just flipped, with some minor changes.
Yeah, I had a similar layout. I didn't think I had the exact same like track placement and everything, but I did have this kind of debonder in the corner thing going on, and I was unhappy with how many cycles and how much reshuffling it forced me to do. I couldn't find anything better for ADG, but yeah, there is like a lot of mandatory shuffling when you put the debonder there.
Yeah. Do you remember how many
An interesting
instructions it
design
was?
challenge. Mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably would have been around what Goodbye Galaxy got. But
makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Next up then we have in 6th place with 80 gold and 214 instructions, the last of our 2T 80 gold solves, Biggie Mac. Any cheaper is silly. Well, I guess lots of people have silly solves then. Well, not lots of people, 3 people have silly solves.
I wouldn't say a lot, but I would call them silly.
Some of these people are crazy.
I must admit, I was half expecting Biggie to do a 1T solve, because that seems like the kind of thing that he's comfortable with. But it is a production chamber, so that's the exact kind of thing he's really uncomfortable with.
Mhm. Which surprises me that he did play Space Camp, but I guess it's also not as surprising because Biggie also doesn't like Space Camp as much. Biggie has even ditched the Space Camp tournament for the Opus Magnum Weeklies, so I guess that's saying something.
Actually, what would Space Camp be like without the space limitations? I'm sure that's a question that Space Camp people have asked.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of interesting. It'll be much less limiting though, and Psycho's optimization would be more like Opus Magnum. Though I do like how in Space Camp, because of the space limitation, there is no very clear minimum metric for anything. Yeah, this is our last of the 2T solves. Moving on then, we have Mr. Puzzle with 168 instructions. Once you move down to 1T, you take quite a bit of drops in instructions. This does a slight bit of conditionals so that it doesn't have to reprogram the second time it creates a product with the extra salt on the board. Or extra earth, it may not be calcified yet.
Actually, if I ever finished my ADG, it would have looked a lot like this, except if you swap the leftmost regent with the projection glyph, which I like the way Mr. Puzzle does it better.
Mm-hmm. So you swap. Also, you're saying you swap this with this with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably dumber in hindsight.
Yeah, since if you place the inputs next to each other, you get to do more input suppression.
Exactly.
That's usually how I go about doing cost solves as well. So, especially dubious cost solves, you kind of just have, if there's more than one input, you place it next to each other, like as in with Mist of Dowsing.
Yeah, true. The inputs, the regents are actually quite nice for input suppression.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe less so on Mist of Dowsing, but on this puzzle they are really nice.
Yeah.
Just pivot over.
Yeah, definitely taking notes.
Next week doesn't require much optimization, though.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
won't need
next
study.
week I'll use the notes as what not to do.
I mean, nobody says you have to make a bad solve, you just have to make a fun solve. Though oftentimes fun solves aren't particularly performing well in certain metrics, but
Yeah.
you could also go the whole other direction and make a high effort solve. Like somehow doing 4 throughput. Which is pulling every single input at top speed. There's also proof rejection on stabilize everything. Oh boy. 2 lead, 1 quicksilver.
God.
Watch Biggie just make a full
I don't want to
solve.
imagine next. I don't want to imagine next week at full throughput.
Yeah.
Well, I might not have to.
Yeah. Next up, we have with 80 gold and 150 instructions, Utopia. Hi, Dad. A bit different from the usual reference, the usual family member reference.
Where's Mom? I don't know where Mom went.
I think his previous solves were all Hi Mom, but in this particular solve, he used Hi Dad instead.
So yeah, what's interesting about this solution is the track placement, because all the length 2 solutions so far that we've seen have the 2 tracks in the exact middle 2 atoms, but here you've got one off to the side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that would give the most axis points if you have it to the center. This one is missing, let me check. Whoops. 2 axis points? Yeah, it's missing 2 axis points.
I guess there are still more access points than with the length one arm, so there is still a decent argument for a layout like this. Like, it's not exactly bad, but I do know Hitobi was I know Hitobi was looking at all the other solves going, oh wait, those layouts are way better, why didn't I try that?
I mean, he did say the reason for this layout is because of the specific movement, the specific track movement that is helpful for his solve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there is reasons for this layout, and it did score.
That's why I didn't think it was stupid.
It is score in 4th place. That's really decent. Better than Biggie.
Hitobi does have a knack for being able to program low T solutions, so that's one of his things.
Yeah, especially the 3/4 T from last week.
Yeah, so I'm not too surprised to see him place well here.
Yeah. Moving on, we have in 3rd place, at 80 gold and 129 instructions, Cuckoo 52. Secret Sauce. We're back to one length arms. But yeah, this is pretty standard stuff. Just done much more efficiently than all the people before him.
Unfortunately, it was not the secret sauce.
Yeah, because primary is not 80. Primary gold is not 80. Well, primary minimum, that is. The primary for this one is 80.
Rolani talked about being able to take it under 70.
It's possible. You can try it without a track and no calcifier. And I think Rolani managed to do it outside of chambers.
Doing it within the chamber seems absolutely nuts to me, though.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know if it's possible, actually. Might not. Yeah, like, I can't exactly make the argument that it is impossible, but, like, I just don't see a way to do it just yet.
Yeah, since with outside of chambers, you usually have to use some sort of waste stick instead of like waste balls that you manage, like in production. But yeah, it's certainly difficult. Waste sticks are much easier to make than like juggling around several waste balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, next up, in 2nd place, we have our first 70 gold solve by Rebix at 1,063 instructions. And since these are 6T solves, they are also 1,063 cycles. But yeah, this is what you have to do if you do not use the calcifier. You have to manage to treat all the excess earth that you're going to be generating because you can't convert them into salt. It's really interesting how like people manage to sort that out, though.
It never occurred to me to just bond the waste earths together so that you got them in one clump as opposed to 6 individual atoms.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
Which, yeah, now that I think about it, that's mandatory. You gotta bond them, right?
Yeah, because of access points. You don't have that many access points to afford to not bond them together. It's basically waste chains, except it's not a chain. It's like the concept.
You can't afford to make a chain.
Yeah, you can't afford to make it. Yeah, the earth slowly accumulates.
The anxiety slowly accumulates.
Yeah, as with waste balling like this, it means that the further you program the solve, the more tedious it becomes. Unless you wanted to make it even more tedious and make it a 1T solve with a bunch of conditionals that deals with waste conditionally, which is by no means any easier.
Waste conditioning is a really top tier cost optimization tactic.
Cost instructions optimization tactic.
Yeah, cost instructions, yeah.
But yeah, next up we have Relomni at 70 gold and just a few cycles shorter, or a few instructions shorter, at 1028 instructions. This is the winner of the cost metric at first place.
Really close call for first.
Yeah. And Rolomni also came up with the winning 80 gold solve, but since the primary has been approved upon, it is not shown as a scoring solve. We can go back to that though in a bit. And, oh yeah, with that solve, we can also showcase the easiest method to do conditional 1T with 80 gold. But yeah, since it's beneficial to have the waste all bonded together, but at the same time, when the waste ball becomes too large, it becomes hard to manage, so at a certain point it ends up being easier to use multiple waste balls that you have to juggle around.
Yeah, I'm still not exactly sure where this saves instructions on Revix's solve because it's really close.
Yeah, it's just slightly faster.
Yeah.
Somehow. I can't tell where because the methods are entirely different.
If
Well,
I
not the
had to guess,
methods,
I'd say. Yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say it was the waste chain handling, but I'm not willing to commit to that opinion.
Yeah. But yeah, so after this week has finished though, Pentapig has come up with a 70 cost solve as well. And the thing with his solve is it is conditional, it is 1T, it is about a fifth amount of the instructions at 253 instructions. This is a post-deadline solve, so it is non-scoring, but it is impressive nonetheless, and it is a 2-length ARM solution.
He mentioned in the Discord that he was surprised he didn't ever see anyone submit a 70G 1T solution, which, I mean, I wasn't. I don't think anyone else was, but Pentapig was surprised because Pentapig is really bloody good at cost optimization.
Yeah. I'm surprised Jin Yu didn't participate either. Jin Yu probably would have gotten the 70 gold 1T solve.
Actually, that is a very good point.
Yeah. I'm surprised Jin Yu didn't decide to participate in this week.
I thought this week for sure we'd get a Jin Yu solve.
Yeah.
Bet he could have been busy or something.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, I in no way understand how the conditional waste chaining works, but one thing that does make it easier though is that out of all the access points, there are a few to the bottom right that requires no swinging over of any sorts to output the product, so that makes creating waste much easier, especially conditionally. This is definitely a much smarter layout for waste, actually.
What is also interesting is that both of our scoring 70G solves had a 1-length arm, but it is totally doable with a 2-length arm.
Yeah.
Which you can see here from Pentapig.
We were talking about that when we actually saw the 2-length arms in 80 gold last week. But yeah. It's really it's nice to see it actually in action.
Yeah, wait, yeah, because having to account for all 6 S atoms at like all 6 different stages of the wave chain building up is really impressive conditioning.
Yeah, it's basically overlapping
Yeah.
6 instruction loops with each other. And make sure they don't interfere. I mean, I've done something similar in instruction solves for emergency antidote with my ARM 3, where I had to overlap 3 entirely different processes together. Oh, that input suppression.
Oh.
Oh boy. Oh, that is very clever. Yeah, I did not finish watching the solve in the GIF form. So that was actually a surprise
Wow.
for me as well. Yeah, this is the worst sound to hear in Opus Magnum. Atoms may not collide. But yeah, that is all the cost solves that we have. Oh, wait, right, one more. We have Verlamni's 95 instructions, 80 gold solve.
So if 80 was minimum, this would have won.
Yeah.
And it's probably the most elegant ADG that we had.
Mm-hmm. This also does the most easiest conditional, as in it places the salt where the earth atom was. Well, where it would have been grabbed. Where the stabilized earth would have been grabbed, so that instead of grabbing both atoms, it only grabs one and does the exact same thing again. It's a very elegant conditionaling, and it's actually all you need to do. Which
Yeah, this is one I downloaded last night and like went through step by step to like figure out how it worked. And I can figure out how it worked, I can understand, but I cannot wrap my brain around planning and building something like that. It's like it's witchcraft.
It comes with experience, honestly.
Yeah, like that's where the real skill is, actually planning it.
Yeah. So like it's impressive seeing like these solves and like understanding them, but what you don't see is all the planning that oftentimes goes behind all these solves. Romney was messaging me a lot more this week about his process, and it's definitely a lot of planning you have to do, and actually creating your own new puzzle file to playtest certain steps in the process. Conditionals like this isn't as difficult, and people with enough experience can just do it on the fly. But yeah.
Well, Omni was talking about because he was trying to, he knew it's gonna have to be one take because there's plenty of room to do that in ADG, but he kind of like accidentally pulled it off a little earlier than he expected. Like he put like you can see that salt atom sitting on that regent space.
Yeah, that is.
And he realized, oh wait, that's all I needed to do. Oh wait, it's the conditional's already done. Oh okay, I can just. All right, there's my one take.
Yeah, since the conditional is literally only that,
and it ends up being a very elegant way to do that
as well, because you don't need to spend all the extra instructions doing any extra conditionals. It's just one step.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is all the cost solves. Moving on, we have our showcase solves that I am going to be loading in. Making sure it is still recording, because I don't want it to suddenly stop as well. Showcase.
Forgetting the press record is one of those mistakes you only make once.
Yeah.
But yeah, first off then, we have zorflax is... Oh yeah, I should explain. Since the next metric we have after the showcase is, well, vintage engine instructions, which has you try to optimize for as little of the pivots and pistons and tracks movements as possible, limiting you to only grab, rotate, and drops. But what if you did the exact opposite? This is the idea behind these series of showcase solves that we have.
This is probably, because there are a few solutions like this, and mine is probably the worst of the lot.
I mean, it's decent. I like how symmetrical it looks. Well, I guess the others look symmetrical as well. They all look symmetrical.
This was actually a bit of This was a bit of a challenge to make because I just tried to make a layout that would be as easy to solve as possible. So I didn't want to spend too much time figuring this out, but I still had to spend some time figuring it out because of the awkward product shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is an interesting product shape, but Brother Mojo is really good at coming up with decent product shapes that are difficult to work with, but not annoying. Well, not as annoying. There can definitely be annoying shapes to work with.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Well, yeah, because I like how this is, it's the same shape as the campaign puzzle Health Tonic, but it's in a completely different context, so it feels like an entirely different puzzle, because this one's a lot harder than Health Tonic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Health Tonic has salt, water, salt here, and 2 different atoms on these ends, and this one has the angle stabilized element elsewhere. Yeah. Next up we have Haxton's non-vintage engine instruction solve.
This is like bonus hard mode for Health Tonic.
Also reminds me of Panacea from the RPO's 2019 tournament.
It does actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's also the same shape, and it also has medals, unlike Health Tonic.
Wasn't there one this year that used that shape as well?
I mean, yeah, it's literally Health Tonic. It's Panacea and Poison.
Oh, you said that was RPO's tournament.
Yeah. There's a puzzle called Panacea in the 2020 tournament. The 2019 tournament, and there's a puzzle called Panacea to Poison in the 2021 tournament. They're actually.
Okay, all right.
They are actually very different puzzles.
Yeah.
Panacea to Poison is a bit more difficult. But yeah, this is kind of similar to the next solve, but the one thing it has for it is that ARM 2 and ARM 1 can easily communicate. But that is not the case with Steven's solve. Yes, this is our Steven solve. Bootleg Synthes.
As Steven correctly pointed,
can't communicate. But yeah, I assume you're going to say that this is very similar to Molex Synthes.
Or like a bootleg version of it.
Yeah.
Hence the name.
Yeah.
And as with Steven, he has to do this in the most complicated way possible by starting off with bad layout and, well, trying to finish it.
There is a lot to break down here as to how difficult this actually was to solve. Yeah. Firstly, as you can see, he makes the product in the completely wrong orientation, so he has to shuffle everything around so he can spin it to actually output it. Another one is that the projection glyph is actually half-axis. He at no point is actually able to reach the metal part of the projector glyph. That's another thing that went wrong. He also grabs too much stabilized earth at the beginning, so has to do a lot of quote-unquote unnecessary shuffling just so he can build the product correctly. And the final subtlety about this is that the stabilized earth and the reactive tin regions are placed in the wrong way, because you would probably want to put the reactive tin at the top. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, since you'll be pulling more of those.
Yeah, but he puts the stabilized earth at the top. So with one of the products he has to make, he has to like bend over backwards to make sure it is repressed at all times. Which is a lot more pain than you think it would be.
Yeah. That's Steven solves in general. He often complains about how painful it is in the weekly committee chat.
And yet.
And yet, yes, he loves doing these. I wonder part of it is if we kind of expect him to as well. Stephen, if you're watching this, don't put too much pressure on yourself for actually making a solve each week.
Yeah, we don't expect it of you.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Next up is Haxton with, while watching Stephen work on this, decided to do it with the same layout. But like solved in a more efficient way. By not pulling the extra reactive earth. Not reactive earth, stabilized earth.
Yeah, this kind of highlights how Stephen's solve was an interesting challenge in and of itself, just to complete, because it was interesting enough that Haxton wanted to try it for himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's run this through. Yeah, here we go. And after this, we have our more normal, usual showcase solves. First off, we have Maximum Cost by Bambi. The exact opposite of the previous metric. Since the puzzle space is limited, so maximum cost does become kind of a valid metric. As opposed to when you have infinite space, where maximum cost is just spamming everything everywhere in the infinite space you have. Yeah, with limited area comes like interesting metrics where you have a maximum.
Yeah, during yesterday's stream, there were a lot of ideas for silly metrics.
Yeah, a lot of ideas for silly
Yeah.
maximum metrics. But yeah, this is probably one of the fastest solves we received as well, because the other metrics don't exactly call for fast solves. I mean, they do, but they have it's fast solves with limitations. This is fast solves with zero limitation.
Yeah, I think this is the fastest solve we got, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, apart from the showcases that we're going to see. After
True.
After this particular one, though, this is area cycles. Oh yeah, since we saw that solve last week, we talked about maximum calcifiers, and yeah, this is how you do maximum calcifiers. Just do area.
You just get good at area optimization.
Yep. Since you use the minimum amount of glyph space, and your Earth won't go over the outside because nothing goes over the outside. Yeah, max calcifiers. This is the way to do area solves in production puzzles. Also, hi Rubix. We're on the showcase portion currently. Yeah. Next up, we have the really fast solves. Starting with OCG, which is overlap, which looks like magic. It creates the product shape like this. I guess I could give an overlap tutorial after this, because of the next week we have the glitch category, and if you want to attempt the glitch category, overlap is a good place to start, since it's not that difficult to do. But yeah, this is overlap gold. Oh no, overlap cycles gold by Mr. Puzzle, and construction noises. Yeah, next up we have hacked instructions, because you don't need to do your solve inside the chamber. You can just do it outside of the chamber, like this. Yeah. So yeah, this is optimized for instruction. This is truly optimized for instructions. There's only 2 that is the minimum possible.
This is probably the most cursed solve. Just everything about it is just broken.
I mean, this is where the stream broke last night, right? That's how broken it is.
Oh,
it broke
right,
the stream.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then we have hack cycles, which is pretty similar, except instead you have, yeah, this instead.
I really like the rings that have the cog machine aesthetic going.
Although it's 6T, it ends up in a loop, which is always nice to see. Well, 6T, it does it every, like, it basically outputs every cycle. But yeah, that should be all the showcase solves. Afterwards, we have our second metric, vintage engine instructions, which we have quite a bit of solves for. We'll be starting with, if I can find it, Bambi's solve in 12th place. Caution, tin makes white right turn. So yeah, lots of extra non-vintage engine instructions are used in this puzzle, in particular mostly due to the fact that there is a piston, which piston movements aren't allowed. Well, they are allowed, but they give an extra penalty, and also movement on a track. So the fact that those 2 exist means that this first off, this wouldn't be 0 unless they are literally just there to look good.
So yeah, the challenge here is to try and do it ideally is to try and do it with only rotation, grab, and drop instructions.
Yeah, just grab.
You are allowed to use them. Yeah, yeah. So or to try and minimize any instruction that isn't one of those.
So yeah, this does make 0 metric possible, and since the weeklies don't account for score, we don't really care the fact that there's a 0 metric that exists, because usually with score calculation, that would mess calculations up. But score calculation doesn't exist in the weekly, so we don't care. 0 metric.
Probably just add we could probably just add like a +1 buffer to fix that problem, to be honest.
No, +1 buffer isn't enough, because that makes 1 and 2 have a, like, that makes 0 instruction, 0 VI and 1 VI have a 2 times score difference.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, so 1 isn't enough. It'd probably be like 10 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, next up we have username void at 5 VI and 826 cycles. This one in particular looks like it was attempted to be a 0 VI solve, but in the end it had to pivot to the output, which is kind of unfortunate.
It looks like you got every part of the construction process except for the last one.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Also, looking at this solve, I am sad that Cutelli doesn't exist in production.
I did keep having that thought. There were a couple times where I had a perfect spot for Cartelli, and I'm like, oh, no Cartelli.
Yeah, I can't just, like, drag the entire cabinet over to where the Cartelli would have existed. Cartelli exists, like, kind of over here in the corner.
So, a bit interested to see the fact that, like, because the part that username void has to pivot is the last part. Because when I was trying to do this in 0 VI, the last part of the construction process was the one that I had to figure out first, because
Yeah.
it's the hardest step, and also the most important to determining whether or not your layout is going to work with only rotations.
Yeah, because it involves the largest the largest bonded shape before it is outputted, so it makes sense that you want to have space to actually output that through rotates. Because rotates take a lot more space than pivots. Pivots are
And you
very
need to plan
powerful.
the rotation to minimize that. Yeah.
Yeah, pivots are very powerful for rotating things around in as little space as possible. Remember that for area solves. Yeah. Next up, in 10th place, we have, which may come as a surprise, Biggie Mac, at also 5 VI and 332 in cycles. Biggie said he did not expect to perform this bad, and that there were more 0 VI solves than he expected. Can't blame him though, he doesn't like production puzzles.
He did go to the trouble of cycle optimizing this, which I do appreciate.
I mean, yeah, it's Biggie. But yeah, unfortunately, this does a few pivots on arm 2 to calcify, and pivots, and track movement. Well, not track movement, piston movement and pivots on arm 3. So it brings it up to 5 VI.
Biggie was originally talking about not being sure whether he was ever going to bother solving this puzzle.
Oh, yeah.
And we successfully goaded him into it in the end.
Yeah, it's nice to see him like even have a solve. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do appreciate that it has optimized for VI as well by making this 1T and not 2T so that it's 5 VI instead of 10 VI. There's still optimization that goes into it, just that it's not 0 VI.
Yeah, it's very sporting of him, even though production puzzles are like the opposite of his comfort zone.
Yeah. Next up then, we have a bit of a tiny drop in VI into 9th place with 2 VI and 384 cycles, Genius 42. Which was very enthusiastic about beating Biggie for once, which I have not done yet. I have not beaten Biggie at all in any tournament setting. I think Biggie is the only person I haven't beat.
It's always a fake. He never seems to be bad in any of the metrics.
Yeah. I managed to beat...
So yeah. Sorry.
Oh, well, I was going to say I managed to beat Pentapig in... The only reason I managed to beat Pentapig is because he did not finish the throughput solve in Rivari's Rage.
I beat practically everyone in GAC, which is like the single dumbest metric of any of the tournament waves to beat everyone in.
Except for Goodbye Galaxy.
Except for Goodbye Galaxy, who I never actually beat.
Yeah, there was I beat most of the people in my week 3 of the tournament where I got 4th place, beaten only by Biggie, Pentapig, and Jinyu, the usual 3. I forgot when I beat Jinyu, but it happened. But yeah.
So I guess regarding this solve, and this also extends to Biggie Mac solve, is the triple bonder, which I thought was a bit interesting, because that was how I tried to get this. For the longest time, I was trying to get 0 VI with that triple bonder, and I could not for the life of me manage it. I'm still not sure whether it's possible. I think it is, because I got really close.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to pull off with that multi-bonder, because that's the kind of
limiting in shape.
Yeah, because that Y shape is the shape you want the product to be, but that ends up being a bit of a curse, because it's a very area-intensive shape.
Yeah, I really wanted to use the triple bonder in mine, but I just could not make it work. Yeah. So when I saw this, I was like, jealous.
Yeah. So you can, however, get away with 2 bonders. It uses the exact amount of space, but you have much more freedom with the amount of with the where you place your 2 bonders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the triple blunder ended up being a bit of a trap more than anything else, which, yeah, you can see a few quite good players here fell for it, and I nearly fell for it myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, next up we have in 8th place at also 2 VI and 347 cycles Cuckoo 52. Secret Sludge. This unfortunately does a bit of pivoting. But that is, yeah, the pivoting is for bonding the last piece of copper, which is kind of unfortunate that that needs to be done. They did get the last output idea down, but unfortunately they did not get the last bonding idea down.
This was very well cycle optimized, though.
Yeah. At 347 in cycles, it's decently faster than many other solves that are in.
Because the cycle, yeah. Sorry, because the cycle secondary does end up being quite important, and to cycle optimize properly for this metric in particular, the multi-arms end up being quite powerful.
Yeah. Which is why Zorflax asked initially when the puzzle was posted if multi-arms are actually valid in the vintage instructions metric.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure because, like, from the beginning, I'm like, yeah, that's what the winning solves are going to use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next up, though, we have Shadow Cluster, which gave vintage engine instructions a try, and came up with a half T VI solve.
Yeah, I know during the week, Shadow Cluster was complaining about this puzzle, and I'm like, what's wrong with the puzzle? And then, like, I saw he only ever managed one, and that's why.
Yeah, it's very unsatisfying when you get like 1 on your metric and knowing like 0 is very close.
Surprisingly minimalist layout, actually, with only the 3 arms in the middle doing stuff.
And also, yeah, all the 3 arms are a knight's move apart, which kind of a knight's move. A knight's move would probably be 2 forward and 1 to the side, but it's close enough.
No, yeah, I would describe this as Opus Magnum's equivalent of a knight's move.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see later why that is worth mentioning.
Yeah,
when we get to the
basically
zeros.
all the 0 VI solves use that extensively. Since it's...
Because that then... Yeah, I would describe that as the big trick to getting 0 VI to this, which Shadow Cluster you can see very nearly accomplishes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the easiest way to pass atoms around. Well, without pivoting to each arm. But yeah, let me finish up the solve. Since it's on the slow end at 1,145 cycles, but it's the only 1 VI solve that's, that's scoring, so it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah, next up we have Brother Mojo, which is a playtest solve at also 1 VI. And the only non-vintage instruction in particular is the output. Over here, yeah, it pivots the output. That's all ARM 5 does. It just grab, pivot, drop.
That's its only job, to ruin the 0.
Yeah. At least it doesn't do it twice.
Yeah, because 1T solves kind of by definition have to... Yeah, the 1 VI solves kind of by definition have to be 1T.
Or have to.
I know... Oh god, actually no. You raise a good point.
Basically, you have to be less than like 1T or less.
Yeah. So no, Genius 42 at least talked about completely missing that trick.
I mean, he does know that you can do that, but he does not have the skills to pull it off. He definitely knows that
He's
it's
getting
possible.
better.
Yeah. With time, with this game, you definitely do improve. And the best way to improve is to actually start optimizing for metrics yourself in the campaign puzzles. If you've beaten the game, you can turn on what is it? Top percentile, which shows you like basically near perfect metric scores that you can aim towards, but it won't be as like strict as absolute minimum, but it will be a nice goal to work towards for most of the puzzles.
Yeah, the way I improved when I was starting out was to just study the records on the leaderboard.
Yeah, I didn't actually
Reddit.
study the record. I kind of found things out myself in the beginning. Actually.
Yeah, I'd say either. Yeah, I think you go about it either way.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
I think my plan is going to be to go back through like the previous weeklies, attempt them myself, and then look at what everybody else did and go, oh.
Yeah, that's also a good idea. You can also do it with the tournaments as well. The tournaments have like better designed puzzles sometimes, and they also have review videos as well. Well, at least 2020 and 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So lots of puzzles for you to
But
work
I'd say the weekly puzzles are still good.
Yeah, they're still good. They're not like they're a bit more well sorted through and like actually chosen for. Well, they have more design to them than some workshop puzzles like human DNA to low player DNA. That's a puzzle we shit on a lot. But yeah.
In all fairness, human DNA to all player DNA is actually a good puzzle. Like I feel like for beginners, it's very beginner friendly and actually quite nice.
Yeah.
But it's also a shit though.
I could definitely see why it's popular. What if we actually did that for like the shitpost week next week?
That's actually an idea. You could construct that puzzle.
Yeah. Next up, we have in 6th place though, we have Zero VI. Our first Zero VI solved by Rolani at 599 cycles. Rolani did say that he wasn't as satisfied with this solution though, because he knows it can be optimized in cycles by a lot. He wanted to get more like multi-arms involved, but couldn't quite fit them in.
Yeah, the problem is that because this is where cycles start being important, and Rolani knew this wasn't going to have a good enough cycle count, but the layout that he found simply wasn't really conducive to cycle optimization.
Yeah, the most that can be done here is probably turning arm 4 into a multi-arm, but even that's kind of difficult because it might accidentally grab the top reagent.
Yeah, I couldn't see that being easily accomplished, because arm 4 is what really slows this solution down, but I don't really see an easy way to speed it up.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure Rolami's have tried it as well. I mean, before he started like grinding for cost.
He would have had to find a completely different layout to improve the cycle count, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a tough find. Finding one working Zero VI layout is enough of a challenge.
Yeah, basically everybody only found everyone only found one layout and like tried to optimize it. Next up, we have Evanov at 0 VI and 550 cycles, remote access. But yes, as you can see with most of these solves, they are like as with this one, arm 1 to 5 are all one nice move apart. Since that provides a very easy way to pass 2 atoms between each other.
It's actually really pretty how the arms almost make a perfect dual formation.
Yeah, there. That's the perfect tool.
That would have been really cool if you solved it like that.
Yeah, but that ARM6 being like that is very beneficial at moving like something that would have been from ARM1 directly to ARM5 as fast as possible.
Yeah, having length 1 and length 2 arms is actually also a useful tactic to solve this in 0VI because, as Mr. Puzzle said in the stream, it lets you fake a pivot, essentially.
I didn't try this puzzle myself, but I'm gonna have to trust you on that.
Now, yeah, I would say he's right.
Yeah, I assume it does change the parity, which is pretty important when it comes to
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, the next solve makes really good use of that change parity thing.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we have in fourth place Utopia at 452 cycles. 0000. Oh, I forgot to check if the since there are solution names on the results sheet, I forgot if I actually changed it to 0000 or if it's treating it as a number and just has 0 written on it right now.
No, I think that's what he actually called it.
No, I mean like on the results sheet.
Oh.
Yeah, because Excel and Google Sheets automatically turns numbers into like numbers.
Yeah, they don't like leaving zeros.
So I have to manually change the format on that. I'll check it out in a bit after the stream. Accurate naming. It's
Yeah, this one was actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this one was actually our cheapest 0VI.
Oh, it was?
Because, yeah, personally, I would have never thought to clump the arms together like that, but it does make sense because of the whole.
Yeah, the whole I need a lot of space to swing the product thing.
Yeah, exactly. And because, yeah, 3 is, being the length 2 arm can still communicate perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, change the parity in a really clever way.
Yeah, and really what ARM3 does here mostly is, well, it does change the parity on the stabilized Earth, but it also delivers the Quicksilver, which is inaccessible to every other ARM.
Yeah, there's a really slick 1, 2, 3 motion you can see between arm 2 and 3 at the beginning of the construction phase.
Oh yeah, and the suppression indexing is really nice, as Rebex. Yeah, that part.
Yeah.
As Rebex has noted. Next up, we have in third place at 397 cycles Pentapig, which has everything except for arm 4 at a knight's move apart. And
so this is a really cool solution because this is solved this is solved under the parameters of the vintage metric as it was originally imagined.
Yeah.
Because it was originally imagined without the multi-armed and without length 2 arms at all. So the fact that he managed to get it under 400 cycles is insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the multi-arm may be useful for arm 2, I would assume, since arm 2 is really, really busy. And it probably would have been beneficial to use the bi-arm actually.
Actually, the particular region arrangement, it might have needed to be a wheel arm, but as we'll see later, the double arm also ends up being very useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next up, we have zorflax's host solve non-scoring at 336 cycle. Very dense. Yeah, Zorflax, since this is your solve, you can talk about it.
I think when I originally solved this, it was without any of the cycle optimization tactics. Like I had a bunch of single arms everywhere. Arm 6 didn't even exist. It's purely there for cycle optimization.
Yeah.
But as we were talking about Rolamni's layout not being conducive to optimization, I kind of just found out this one was, to my luck, very conducive to cycle optimization.
Yeah.
I can introduce a wheel arm and a tri-arm, and it kind of worked out quite neatly. I'm also quite proud of the bonding method itself. I don't think anyone else quite uses that bonding method with the
bond
linked
placements.
two arm.
Yeah. The bonders are very far apart, which is not that common in VI, from what I've seen.
And I'm pretty sure I got the only solve that uses more than one length two arm, interestingly. I thought they were going to be really useful and common, like in the same way the multi arms work, but it didn't quite turn out that way.
Yeah. One thing I do like about VI this week is that the amount of different approaches is like there's a lot of different approaches, which is a pleasant surprise. I was kind of worried that it would have been like very limited because you do have limited space, but apparently not. You have a lot of approaches still. It may have seemed limited when people were solving it though. Tunnel visioning after finding a layout.
Yeah, when you're just solving it and you have no idea what anyone did, it can seem impossible.
Yeah, like you assume that everybody does the same thing as you. So you, as a result, you also have no idea where everybody else scores. Yeah. Next up, we have in second place Mr. Puzzle at 298 cycles. It's also very clean, almost symmetrical as well. It's very symmetrical looking compared to most of our VI solves.
It's funny because all the 0VI solves have been completely different, and this is probably the first one with a couple of similarities, specifically with my solution with the wheel arm and
the wheel arm
two
input.
regions. Yeah, but he executes slightly better than mine because he has a better projector glyph, and his double arm is very useful.
Mm-hmm. The double arm essentially bonds everything together before they are bonded.
Mm.
It just needs to make that extra bond. Yeah, another good thing about this is that everything is at 120 degree angles. If 60 degree angles existed, this puzzle probably would have sucked.
Well, that's another reason why the knight's jump concept between the two arms was so important, because it lets you so easily make that 120 degree bond.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like a 60 degree bond I can imagine it's still working. There probably would have been like more length two arms and more arms that are just like two straight hexes away from each other.
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, there were also lots of comparisons last week to, well, maybe not a lot, but there were definitely comparisons to toxic metallurgy.
Yeah, turned out being quite informative for this puzzle.
Yeah, where you use bi arms for cycle optimization, and the arm spacement apart is very important. But yeah, which Rebix uses in their winning solve at 236 cycles at 0 VI.
As I was saying yesterday, I knew I could get beaten. I didn't think I was going to get beaten by 100 cycles.
Yeah. This is exactly 100 cycle better than zorflax's solve. It was going to be 100 cycle solve better than every other solve by any other person before Mr. Puzzle submitted theirs. But yeah, this is.
I did say Yeah, I did say during the week in our chat that I thought Mr. Puzzle was the only other person with a chance. I knew if he
actually
couldn't do
beat
it, I
Metric.
didn't think anyone else would.
Yeah. Since Mr. Puzzle's skill set also includes like doing these VI, well not VI but like production puzzle. Mr. Puzzle is a production puzzle enthusiast. So is Rebix. The main three I can think of is Rebix, Mr. Puzzle, and Brother Mojo.
Production puzzle enjoyer. But yeah, so the really cool thing about this solution, well, first of all, you might notice that like those two double arms are just like effortlessly communicating with each other and doing they're genuinely multifunctional to the point where arm one actually starts work on the second product as the first one is still being constructed, which lets you take the cycle count down lower than I think anyone else expected for this metric. Is really cool.
Yeah, that's also why this is operating on 16 to save a slight bit more cycles. This is probably the only 60 0VI solve that we have as well.
Mine's 60.
Oh, yours is 16.
Yeah, it saves it saves 2 cycles.
Saves 2 cycles.
Yeah. Like I can look at every single glyph here, and like I couldn't and I can look at it and then be like, yeah, that's the right place for it. I couldn't find a better spot for it.
Oh yeah, I also noticed that there's only one bonder.
Yeah, and yeah, that's actually surprising. I only needed one bonder because it makes the construction process look so easy.
Yeah. But yeah, this is the winning solve. I guess I forgot to congratulate the top 3 for each metric, but I can do that now. Congratulations to Rebix for first place, and Mr. Puzzle for second, zorflax for getting in between second and third, and Pentapic for getting third. And as for the other metric, let me open that up. For cost, congratulations to Rolomni for getting first place, Rebix for getting second, and Cuckoo52 for getting third. And also, and congratulations to Pentapic for coming up with a very impressive 1T solve for showing us after the week has ended. It's still impressive nonetheless. But yeah, as with tradition for the weekly streams though, we will be showing the next week's puzzle again, even if this has already been revealed, but we'll be doing it again. We can talk, and I can talk about a bit about it more. So this is stabilized everything, where you have to stabilize, well, it's not technically everything, you don't have all the metals and you don't have all the cardinal elements, but everything will be created during the process of creating these outputs. The original puzzle used to be like with all the stabilized cardinal elements as well, but we thought that was a bit too tedious, so we didn't actually go with it. So this is the puzzle we ended up with. This is stabilized everything, and the interesting thing about this puzzle in particular is that the metrics are basically making the solve pretty. Make it look nice, make it funny, just do what the community would like.
Like, just, yeah, it just make it an aesthetic masterpiece. You can interpret that phrase however you want. It can be a really high effort shitpost. It can be something legitimately aesthetic. Like, the world is your oyster, and I'm really excited to see what people do for this.
Yeah, so far we have received no solves yet. Please get to doing that. We would like to see your solves. But also, yeah, since
I'm not going to spoil myself until the stream. I'm going to keep myself blind.
Yeah, since we have been referring to this as a Steven metric. We have the iconic flare, even though it's a lead flare, and even though you can make everything with the lead flare, it is kind of tedious. You might not want to do that, so we also provide you with the 3 most basic reagents to make things a bit easier. 1 atom reagents are definitely more useful than a flare, even if it's less shitposty. And
This is actually the puzzle we've probably spent the most effort trying to design. Actually,
yeah, the shitpost.
because we've been meaning.
Shitposts are actually
Yeah,
not
because
that
we've
easy
been
to design.
we've been meaning to design something. Yeah, because we've been wanting to try something like this, like since we came up with the Weeklies thing.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, also, I can give a slight tutorial on overlapping now. So, if you want to overlap
Yes.
two things, the easiest method would be to, well, the method I know would be to have a grab point, and if you didn't know, you can make a selection and use A and D to rotate. And let me do it like this so it's more obvious that it's overlapped. You can use A and D to rotate the things, and what you do is you rotate so that it overlaps, and you... Oh wait, I need an extra step. You have to have an extra reagent on the side, thing to grab on the side. You rotate it over the glyphs you want so that it's overlapped in the orientation you want. You keep it like this in this rotated orientation. You drag it off. You shift click an extra glyph, and you drag it back into place.
Huh.
And it's overlapped. It's like magic. And this is basically the only way you can actually do... Well, this is the only glitch, mostly, that you can actually perform within the Opus Magnum editor. I mean, technically you can do overclocking, but nobody wants to do this for several hours. So, yeah, that is the most basic overlap technique, and something interesting with overlap that we can show that was shown in Rivari's Rage is double proging. This is a technique you can use if you want, where you can project whoops. You can project 2 times in a single cycle. That's a thing you can do. Another thing you can do with overlap is wanding, which works like this. Where you can not spend extra cycles regrabbing the reagent and just pulling it out, making you able to pull the reagent every single cycle instead of every other cycle, which is the maximum speed without glitches. This is some of the most basic overlap tactics you can use if you want to consider doing the glitch metric. But yeah, that should be all for this week, and I would show off the other glitches that you can do, but I don't exactly have a solution file ready for that. But yeah, thank you all for coming to help me with this re-recording, or if you're on YouTube, thank you for watching this video, and have fun with the next week. So, we'll see you all then.
Bye.
Bye!
Hey.